Welcome all. Did we just see the greatest finish of all time? We'll let it guys get in the chat real quick, jump in, going live here at 9:30 on a Sunday night. I uh I just still can't even breathe hardly. I was down on my knees, I was jumping, I was on the edge of my seat. I was holy smokes, man. I'll tell you what, if you've never watched NASCAR before, I don't know, man. That was absolutely wild. My name is Ryan Peters. I'm with Travis Butt. Let's go ahead, hit the video real quick, and let's get this post race started. Welcome one, welcome all. Here we go. We're ready to rock and roll. Suarez wins at Atlanta in what can only be decided as one that will go down in history as one of the greatest races of all time. Yes, Atlanta Motor Speedway, the mile and a half that had one of the oldest surfaces. It was changed by NASCAR. We watched races on Friday and Saturday night. I think Travis and I texted each other and said, I don't know if this is going to end up doing very well on Sunday because nobody could pass on Friday. Nobody could pass, or excuse me, both races were on Saturday. I'm just so jacked up. Both races were on Saturday. And yeah, and then we got immediately cars just going everywhere. Everybody's passing. I mean, we didn't get 2.5 miles before we actually had our first wreck, but an absolute amazing race. Travis, how did you take it all in?
It was hard for me to take it in. It was exciting. It was thrilling. There was some gas mileage involved, but it wasn't as an extent like Daytona. It just felt like you got these big runs and people could pull these little sliders to get back in front. It truly felt like the old drafting days to a certain degree, where people could actually go from the back to the front. Not as many lanes, obviously, but people could make passes, people could squeeze into moments, and I just felt like they actually raced today, and it really
Yeah.
showed. I was really, really worried a couple years ago when they said they were coming out in this. I said, "What are we doing here?" And Atlanta. I hope this is the peak Atlanta, because I really feel like in the coming years, this place is just going to keep getting better and better. And it's just not because there's a lot of times we say great races because there's great finishes, but even if there wasn't a great finish at the end of this race,
Yeah.
it was still a great race.
Yep.
It just the finish made it even better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And and last week, that's why I said it's kind of like Daytona was reading a really good book. And then, the author ran out of ideas at the finish. Atlanta, man, Atlanta, I felt like I watched all three Lord of the Rings. I mean, I was like so freaking into this race. Trey Brown, dude doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm
He's
guessing you're
talking
dude.
about me.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
You know what
We got,
you got to
we
get
got the
those
beef
trolls in
posse.
here.
Yeah, we got Mr. Butt Posse. But before, I mean, if you're just now tuning in, spoiler alert, like I'm gonna show you this. I have not done any editing to it. I haven't done anything else to it, but I do want to show you guys. If you don't want to watch the ending, why did you turn into a post race show? But I mean, I have to show this. This is the final lap at the finish line for today's race.
Is going to get a huge push by Bubba Wallace. Blaney doesn't pull up to get the middle lane blocked, and Kyle Busch puts it right on the outside of Blaney, woes them all down. Bubba Wallace gets tight, so really at this point it's a race between these three guys coming to the start-finish line, and it's just a drag race and nobody's going anywhere, and it comes down to a dead heat between the three of them at the start-finish line. What? That's unbelievable.
We'll believe it. That was awesome. And I love what you said there. As soon as Wallace slid up, it eliminated all the help from behind.
What a finish.
Freaking
What a finish.
bananas, man. Bananas. Yeah. So I want to welcome everybody in. Again, my name is Ryan. This is Travis. This is Stuck in the Catching. If it's your first time here, let us know. If that's one of the first races you've seen watching NASCAR, let us know. We're going to be here for a little bit talking about what we saw tonight. And I mean, not even to bury the ending, Travis, the guy that we didn't talk about the entire race won the damn race. I mean,
I,
like
the,
Daniel Suarez, if that's the guy you were going to say, oh yeah, Daniel will be there at the end to win it. It's like, holy shit. Like in my brain, I was like, Daniel Suarez won? Like what?
and it's funny because we didn't he didn't talk about him on the preview show or nothing. He was a plus 3,500, and it was one of those things where the only time he talked about him was when he got kind of some damage at the beginning of the race, and then
Yeah.
he was kind of there pushing around, and it's the when it comes down to these drafting tracks and super speedways, it usually comes down to the people that you don't usually talk about anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I heard the announcers uttered his name the entire time. Like it was just one of those things. Like I saw them going 3 wide, but in my brain, I did not comprehend who was going 3 wide, except for Kyle, because I was on my knees. I'm jumping, like, come on, Kyle, let's go. As you can tell, no fandom here. But
Oh,
and then at the end, like whenever Daniel Suarez won, I was just like, holy cow, what a moment for Daniel Suarez. And mi amigo, there you go. Just one to Daniel Suarez. And Travis, tell me how big this is for Daniel Suarez. I mean, honestly, a guy probably on the hot seat on an up and coming team to get a win like this is absolutely monumental for him.
I mean, you got to think about it. Who's all Trackhouse signed lately? Zane Smith, SVG. They got another deal with another dude. I don't know the exact name, but they got all these deals with these people. Daniel might have just saved himself another year of racing in the Cup Series from winning. And that's, everyone says winning fixes everything. Winning fixes everything. So he might have just got himself another year on a contract, and I think you look at it as just from the standpoint of, what's his career like? I think someone said I think on the stat, it was this 252nd start, which is, you like think about, he's been in the Cup Series since 2017.
Yeah.
And I just hard to think about, like, he's been in the Cup Series for that long. He kind of took over for Carl Edwards, but this is just a thing where, they got SVG in line. They got Zane Smith in line. You got this other dude in line. And, and Daniel knows he's in the hot seat. Like like, is people talking about it? Yeah. He's trying to ignore it, but he knows in the back of his head, like, if I don't win this year, I'm moved on. Like I'm gone. So, big win for him. He's in the playoffs. He cleared post-race inspection. Big momentum, at the season and keep going. Now, his biggest thing now is, okay, like he's got to improve on the, obviously he's going a mile and a half, but, he's got to improve on the other stuff now. He's got a road course win, 2 years ago at Sonoma, and then he's got this. Now he's got to like uptick. Like last year, there was no performance anywhere.
Right.
Really. So, like, where does this lead to? Again, it's a drafting track. Anyone could just about win in there. BJ McLeod could win at that track, but where is he going to set himself aside from here on out? He's off the hot seat for another year at least. Win fixes everything. So now you're looking at it and going, okay, what's next?
I mean, this is to the point to where Trackhouse might even try to say, we need to buy a charter to make a third card team versus just letting Daniel Suarez go. I mean, that's the type of momentum winning in this sport. Like you said, it's so hard, and it takes a lot of luck. Who doesn't have luck? Austin Dillon, who literally has run maybe 4 miles this year and had 2 wrecks, none of his own. I mean, that's just part of this sport, man. And racing, there's just a lot of things you can't control. You may do everything right and can't control a few things. And, watching your teammate Ross Chastain win back-to-back years, get into the Final Four, sets himself up now like on these road courses, he can just go for it. He don't have to worry about, being, conservative and things like that. And, just an awesome, awesome moment for him. And, a guy that it seems like a lot of people in the garage really, really like too. But I do want to bring it. Let's try to, as best as we can, break down how this race got to the final before we get to the final standings. So we literally crossed the finish line, and then there was a wreck. 15 cars involved in the wreck. I think Christopher Bell was the one that was the worst for wear. I think he ends up finishing last in this race. But a lot of cars had damage.
Williams.
Oh, yeah.
He's had a terrible weekend. What an awful weekend. Got caught up in both, like, early lap crashes. I mean, what? Like, what? Like, bad luck.
Yeah, and it was bad luck. I mean, it's just wild. I mean, like I said, Austin Dillon, you know, it has a pretty decent qualifying, but ends up right in the middle of a wreck again. So Chase Elliott gets some damage. A few other cars get some scrapes here. You know, both John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones, they were wounded. Eric Jones more so than John Hunter Nemechek, which both of them just came off top 10 finishes for the first time with their Toyota rides. Then we go through the stage. Michael McDowell's fast. You know, you mentioned Michael McDowell in the betting show. We talked about him. He was really, really fast. I have no idea how he fell off there at the end. I think they were on a different strategy, and it just didn't work out. But he ends up winning stage one. Stage two, a lot of really, really good racing. You know, we saw how fast Penske was all day long, and it wasn't just Ryan Blaney there at the end. Austin Cindric ends up winning the stage, but is really fast. Harrison Burton, you know, getting most of he's essentially Penske light, ends up driving really, really well. And, you know, they were there contending the entire time. And we have just an amazing competitive entirety. The biggest thing that happened in that stage was like 9 cars get get pit road penalties, including Josh Berry twice, who got a penalty and then got a penalty serving his penalty. And then we get to the end. I'm sure this will bother you in stage 3. We've said a lot of things about Brad Keselowski. The 2 worst blockers in the entire sport end up causing wrecks. Joey Logano said he got shoved into the wall or he sucked into the wall. No, Joey Logano was just blocking somebody, caused Denny Hamlin to wreck, and it caused somebody. Was it Corey LaJoy in that one as well?
Which one? The Logano?
Joey Logano.
Bush. It was
Chris
Buescher.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And got Hamlin too, but somehow Hamlin continued.
Yeah, and Hamlin's nose literally crumpled up. You can see it crumpled up. But we actually got an interview during the race of what happened later. Brad Keselowski in the top 5. The reason why he hasn't won in almost 100 races is because he just runs out a lot of talent. And, you know, he collected the number 5 car, and we talked to Travis Butt after that and saw what he had to say whenever Kyle Larson was kicked out of this race.
He's just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. He gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, you know, he's fucking terrible. He's just terrible.
Those may be harsh words, but honest words.
I don't know if I'm more disappointed that you picked a Denny Hamlin clip, or if you, I don't know what I feel worse about right there. That's exactly how I felt. I just sitting there watching TV. Well, actually, I'll tell you what. I walked into the kitchen to get a Pepsi, and I walk out and there's a caution in it, and I'm like, all right. And then I saw Keselowski in the pits. I went, well, here's right in front of Larson, and then there's Larson with his right front fender gone. I went, wow, I walked in there just to get a Pepsi, and then he's crashed. Yeah. Wow, incredible.
And then we also saw Chase Briscoe, who was really, really fast, but also really, really loose. I mean, he was driving in there. He could push people, but he could not keep that son of a buck at the bottom of the speedway. They end up going 4 wide. The first time, everybody goes through unscathed. The second time, not so much. Denny Hamlin, to me, it looked like he just dumped him. I can't confirm that he dumped him, but if he did dump him, it didn't help him because Denny Hamlin ruined his day by hitting Chase Briscoe. And then, obviously, we have one of the best finishes that you would ever see, where the third place car was 7 thousandths of a second from first place. So let's go through the top 10 here. Actually, it might be the top 12. Let me hide this real quick. Nope, that's not the right thing. It's my first day on the job, guys. Stay with me. Here we go. Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace. Congratulations to Bubba Wallace. Back-to-back top 5 finishes. Both 5th place finishes, I believe. Ricky Stenhouse, Ross Chastain. So obviously a great day for Justin Marks and that team in Trackhouse. Mike McDowell did end up finishing 8th. Wow. He just completely disappeared and then somehow found his way back. Chris Buescher, with all the damage that he said, or that he had that we talked about. Ty Gibbs hung around the top 10, didn't mention a lot. Harrison Burton showed speed today. And then Martin Truex Jr., he would get up front and then kind of lose it there at the end. But that all being said, Travis, is there anybody that, you know, caught your eye, whether it be in the top 12, how anything there, you know, based on what you saw?
Well, I said Harrison Burton for a top 10 and he got 11th. So I was a little hurt their soul a little bit. Michael
That
McDowell, he
sucks.
got him and he wrecked Byron on coming into pit road. So, they got some damage, but obviously able to continue, which was kind of cool to see. So I just thought, it was, just all together, Bubba sitting there, he got wrecked in the very beginning. You stayed out there, pit road penalty, everything that's going on, and then he's sitting there and he finishes fifth. Good job for him. I think you just look at everything. Truex is up there the whole time, just got shuffled out of line. I think Suarez got under him at the end and pushed him out of line. So it was one of those things where it was just, it was all around good. Like, even if like all these people had penalties, I bet if you look at the people in the top 10, pull up that top 12 again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's see here. Bush had a penalty. Bubba had a penalty. Ricky Stenhouse had a penalty. Michael McDowell had a penalty. Bush had a penalty. Look at all these people that had penalties and was able to, rebound, which is great. Austin Cindric was there all day.
Yep.
Great job. You have, Ricky. Heck, they didn't talk about him all day. He had what do you have? What paint scheme? He had the blue buffalo or something like that. Paint scheme.
Yeah.
I don't know. What is the blue buffalo? Do we know
Dog
what
food.
Buffalo? Is it dog food?
It's dog food.
Wow. Okay. There we go. Didn't know that. Thank you.
Man.
Thank you. Sponsorship B2B. Let's see here. Just like that, but Ricky's gonna find himself in the front at the end. So, good for him. Just a good overall race. That's all, there's nothing else that needs to be said about it. It's just nothing really stood out. I thought, I think Harrison actually got in 2 wrecks. He got one in the first one, and then he was part of the Hamlin wreck after that. So
yeah, he kind of spun out. I don't know if he spun out because he tried to brake too hard or whatever, but he didn't get any damage.
Ty Gibbs was the one that pushed Elliott, wrecked a second time. So I think it's just, I thought it was solid. So it was Chastain that pushed him, and then somehow Ty got loose or whatever. But still, it was all good.
It was the one thing, obviously, that you don't see up there, Travis, is a lot of people that are on your hat. It was not a great day for Hendrick, and for a multitude of things. Like Chase Elliott has a unapproved adjustment. William Byron gets in a wreck very, very early. Alex Bowman is in that wreck very, very early. And, Kyle Larson was the class of the field, but unfortunately his Atlanta luck stays true to itself. And
I need to just sit down sometime, and I need to look at Kyle Larson's stats of over the last year and year in a race or whatever, or a year and 2 races of
his last 5 Atlanta races he's wrecked.
Well, and I know last year he was in the top 5, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, he was second or third then. Yeah.
How many races has he been in the top 5 and either wrecked or been wrecked or vice versa in the last 2 years? I'd like to really find a stat on that of, like Pocono last year, and then you got Darlington last year, and then you got Texas, and then you got Atlanta now. Just think of how many races that kid's been in the top 5. Well, I guess he's not a kid anymore. Been in the top 5 and not finished the deal, and most of it from his undoing. So stinks, but now we get to some of the more fun tracks and stuff, which obviously Atlanta.
It won't be more fun than that.
No,
I promise you that.
No, I agree.
We do have a personal question here from Shane Reed. It says, "Hey there, Travis. How's the car coming along?"
It's coming about as what you expect. It'll be done probably the Friday before we race on a Saturday.
There you go.
Typical race car. We're gonna get hopefully a motor rebuilt, and hopefully everything's. I know it seems like your car's coming along, Shane, and little Hornet driver. We were talking about Cavaliers the other day. Shane's got a little baddie.
Oh yeah.
One. Yep. See, look, he's got a little baddie of a Hornet. So
he's got the
that's good.
From
it's well, he does. He calls him. He's got he calls it 2 pack 2 game, or he's got to put his name in here. I don't remember exactly the race team, but he's got a cool little race team.
Packer.
No, he's got to put his name in here. He's got to put his name in here, but he's got a cool little race team. A lot of his stuff it rolls around Pac-Man and stuff like that. So I know there's a 2 in there somewhere, but he has a cool little race team, and he does good for it. It's a game over racing. There you go.
Game over racing. I like that. A little flip. I again, I just want to just an overall from perspective from this. We give NASCAR a lot of shit. Last in the truck race, they decided not to black flag a guy that clearly was about to have his hood come off the ceiling come off his truck until it did. Um, the pit road thing, Travis, I thought was an absolute joke, giving them one opportunity and to practice coming down from 90 mile an hour to then 45 mile an hour. But SMI, congratulations. What you did to Atlanta is now, I don't see how after today that you, me, and Travis and a few and somebody else don't go and say, maybe we need to secure this ticket right now because it might be the hottest ticket in the playoffs when it comes to a racetrack from what we've seen. We saw some good racing last year until it ended up being rained out. We've seen some solid racing, but this track is now, it seems like it's aged a lot more in the last year, but the racing on it has been absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, and I just look at, I'd be the first one to admit 2 years ago when they came out and said, "Hey, we did all this testing. We did all this testing with iRacing. iRacing helped us create this, and blah blah." And I was like, "What BS are we doing? Why do we need another super speedway?" You know, do I want this to always be a super speedway? No, I'm hoping over the next 2 or 3 years, eventually they come to the other rules package to the point that we don't have, the super speedway racing package, and to the point that they're able to separate maybe a little bit. There's actually some really good racing, but like I said, great racing. I give them full credit. Like I be the first one to admit, I'll be the first one to sit on here that I'm going to be a hypocrite and say, like, Travis, you are a dummy for saying bad things about Atlanta because first year was not as good, whatever, but incredible job. First one, do we need this at every track? No, don't. Like, please, NASCAR, I'm begging you, don't. Yeah, maybe Texas. You can do this at Texas, but don't go do this at every mile and a half because that's not what we need. We don't need all this unless you're going to give us the other rules package, and then we can consider. But maybe go do this at Texas or some degree. But other than that, Atlanta is plenty.
Let me answer your question, Chris. Yes, you are correct. The last three races, or the three races that we have in a row, the two regular season races and then this, we have Daytona, Darlington as the last regular season race, and then Atlanta as the first race. That legitimately might be the best 3-race stretch that we have this entire season. I mean, that is tremendous scheduling by NASCAR based upon what we've seen. I do want to say this to Anthony. Thank you for sharing the video, Anthony. Hopefully you had a wonderful time watching today's race. And he also said, Travis, I feel they're leaning more towards plate track racing. I'll jump in here first. I know it's for Travis, but his head's starting to swell. So I agree with that to a certain extent, but I think with what they've done to Atlanta, it's the perfect thing to have it once. I don't think we need any more than what we have with Atlanta. What sucks, to your point, Travis, is if we would have done this to Texas, it would have made a lot more sense because Atlanta had some good races before. Texas needs to be blown up. It did have a crazy race last year, and that's mainly because the drivers couldn't turn into turn 1 and 2. I mean, it's like it's a slippery slope there going into turns 1 and 2. Unfortunately, Atlanta had to die, but it's become more of a phoenix rising from these ashes from what we've seen, and they've hit a home run. Unfortunately, maybe, I don't know what track would end up replacing it on terms of a mile and a half that would have good racing. Obviously, in my backyard, the flag behind me would be great, but I can't guarantee you that would end up being great racing. But with 6 super speedway races that we have now, I think that's the perfect amount. If I'm Goldilocks, this is the bed I'm sleeping in.
And yeah, I hope in 2 years that they maybe even try the other rules package when this, comes. Like I said, it's gonna keep getting weathered. The track's gonna keep going. I thought this track's weathered way more than what I thought it would. I thought this place would not lose a grip, but that's why they call it Hot Atlanta for a reason. And think about what this place is gonna be when it's August when the playoffs start.
Yep. September 8th is when this race is.
Oh, think about that. That's gonna be 90-degree weather at this place. So it could produce even better racing. So we'll see. You know, the stakes are gonna be a little bit higher at that. So I don't see as much risk going in on that race. I hope maybe we can go to that race, but at the same time, I'm like, I think it's gonna be for those playoff drivers, those risks and stuff like that are gonna be a little bit less. So still, I'm excited for it.
And Christopher just wanted to drop the name of his porno. So thank you, Chris. Hot and slick, baby. No, thank you. Again, everybody that's in here, I know you're all Travis's friends, probably every one of you. Even the people that haven't commented yet, I'm sure are all Travis's friends. Thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you are having a wonderful Sunday night about 10 o'clock in the evening here after we had one of the, if not greatest race of all time. But yeah, I mean, looking forward to next week. We go to Las Vegas. I thought Las Vegas was decent the first time around.
Phoenix.
I thought they showed the promo for Las
Oh,
Vegas.
It is Las Vegas. It is Las Vegas. You're right. I got excited for the noodles package of Phoenix. I was looking ahead.
You got excited for Phoenix?
Hey, they got a new rules package. You got to be a little excited. The drivers finally said that it's a little change. I think we might actually see some decent racing there. Yeah. I really do.
I will have to see it with my own
hopeful. Eyes. Hey, we never thought Atlanta would be any good.
Atlanta was the thing that I will give credit for. I made a video and I said, you got to give NASCAR credit. I never thought that the road course, or excuse me, the street course at Chicago would be good. Granted, it did torrential downpour, so I thought that helped it maybe, but got to give NASCAR credit. Hey, there we go. Tanner says I'm here. My one fan. Shout out to my boy Tanner. Thanks, Tanner. I appreciate that. Can't even get my damn mom in the chat, but we can get Tanner from Tennessee in here. Hey, good win by the Vols. Dalton Connect, top 10 pick. Travis, do you have anything that you would like to end the stream with, or anything that, moving forward you're looking towards, or are we just going to go back and watch replays of this race? I literally could go back and watch this entire race over again.
Hey, and this is what makes a great race. I think we look at some of the other, great races in NASCAR. Like we look at, California, a couple years ago. We look at some of the California races. We look at
I'll never forget the last
California rip. We look at some of these
pour one out
races that we were like, oh wow, like fantastic. Great racing and blah blah. But I think just because this race had a great finish, I hope that doesn't take away how great the whole race was. And, they do these polls. And if this poll does not get 95% or better, there are bots in this stuff because this.
Dude, so let me ask you that. When Jeff Gluck does his poll, and we talked about this before, does it necessarily tell every story that happened? How does this not, if there was a race that would be 100%, outside of your favorite driver not winning, how do you sit here objectively and watch this and go, I just didn't enjoy that today?
I'll tell you. Here we go. You had the two most popular drivers essentially crash out. You had Kyle Larson and you had Chase Elliott. Those are big people. I think if Chase Elliott finishes top 5, I think Chase Elliott wins. It's probably 110%. If you got Kyle Larson that wins, it's 175%. But you got two of the big factors that probably turn off the TV when it's done. Do I think that? Am I going to vote no? No? Hell no. I'm going to vote yes because it was a great race.
I might create a secondary shadow account like Kevin Durant and vote twice.
I think, yeah, but I think I think you look at this and you go, people are going to get hated on for people voting no. And it's the only reason they're going to get voted no is because, one of their drivers got knocked out early or whatever, not soft, but. Yeah, this should be almost the highest rate. I would be absolutely shocked if this is not the highest rated stuff. But, just because I had I'm trying to think of a race last year that was really, what race ended? Think about the Talladega race last year.
The street course race was great between Van Gisbergen and Justin Haley. That was one of the best finishes we've seen.
But I think what made that race so great was because, it had a really good finish to it. Right. I think you look at Talladega race last year we went to with Ryan Blaney winning. He won by a nose. I think that race
after that race.
Yeah. Me too. But I think if you look at that race and you go like, oh, if it had a Ryan Blaney winning by by himself, that race
Yeah.
probably doesn't get voted as well.
Right.
Had a great last 5 laps, but this race was good from lap 1 to the end. And that's, and guess what? At the end of the super speedway, did we see a big crash at the end? No.
No.
You had 3 guys just fighting for real estate. So
Yep.
kudos. I think this is, like I said, does it go down as the greatest race in history? Probably not, but I think it goes definitely in the top 3, top 5. I think, there were so many races out there you could think of, but yeah, I could just is it top 5? Absolutely. Is it the best race probably in the last 5 years? I can
Yeah.
put that I can put that in there. I could say in the
Yeah.
last 5 years. I think, but if you look at the '03 Darlington race with Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch, everyone
Yeah.
remembers the last couple laps, but if you think about the first 200 laps of that race,
Right.
not that exciting, but it's one of the most you know, the greatest memory of a lot of people's because I had one of the best finishes in the world. But I think if you, like I said, Atlanta was great from first lap, and it had a hell of a finish at the end, which made it even better. Was it? We were going to sit here and talk about how great the race was. Yeah, we were. If Suarez won by 2 car lengths, we'd have talked about how good the race was. But
Right.
we're going to talk about how good the race was with the finish and this. So,
I did want to see if it's still trending. I know that that's not a big deal
oh yeah,
to most people. At one point, I'm pretty sure it was Amazing Finish was in the top 3, which again is great for NASCAR, and that's what we want. We want people to be able to watch this. And coming off of Full Speed, if that helped bring in new NASCAR fans, if just the beginning of the season, the Daytona 500, and then you had this. I don't know how a casual fan could watch NASCAR and say, "I think I need to make this an every Sunday routine." From what we saw, and I think you're right. Like I will remember this race, and my guy didn't win. I mean, let me make that forward. Most races that I remember because my guy wins.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to lie to you. The most memorable race of all time was at Chicagoland between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, and it was one of the greatest finishes of all time. And that's when he did the crybaby face. If you don't like that type of racing, and what was awesome afterwards was the respect Kyle Busch had for Kyle Larson and Kyle Larson had for Kyle Busch. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that race. But all the other races are just because my guy won. I can't tell you that, I remember, I'll probably remember Dover because when Hendrick finished 1, 2, 3, 4, because that was one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen. But there's just not a lot of races in time I'll go, oh yeah, I do remember that, or I was there. I'll remember Pocono when Kyle Busch only had 1 gear because I was there. And Pocono whenever Kyle Larson wrecks because I was there. But if it comes down to it, I will forever remember this race because, like I said, the beginning, the middle, the end. I don't think Travis. I could imagine being an odds maker during this race and tell you who would be the person to bet on the favorite because it changed every 5 laps. So,
oh yeah, and like I said, we're going back into more a realistic. We're actually gonna see who is good and who's struggling. We're actually going to a track that a little talent comes involved. I think, yeah, talent was a little bit more on site at Atlanta, but we're actually going to see like, okay, whose cars are good, who's actually going to be contender. Does Chevy continue they're 6-0 right now for the season? They've won every race so far. They're 6-0. So
yeah.
do we continue with the Chevy dominance? Do they keep saying, oh, Toyota and Ford, nice new bodies, but old style still wins?
And if you listen to this show, some guy named Travis Butt said at the beginning of the year he thought that that Chevy would dominate until Toyota and Ford figured out their new rides. So Pat's on back to Travis. But I'll tell you who's more excited than anybody to see a mile and a half. It should probably be Toyota because that's where they've made their most hay. But yeah, a great race and again a great show for you guys that are tuning in. If you're not part of it, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. We have live streams, chats, I usually do a let's talk about through the week in the morning. I'm going to put this on a short, the finish for tonight. But you can also follow us at Facebook if you ever feel like donating to the cause. You can at Patreon, and we're also at Rumble. But an amazing finish, an amazing race, and we'll probably only be let down next week because there's no way that we could ever have 2 races in a row like this. Daniel Suarez is your winner. First, second, and third place are separated by 7 thousandths of a second. And Travis and I will not be separated for you guys from that long. We'll be right back here in the upcoming week. So hopefully you have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next time, for Travis Butt, I'm Ryan Peters. This is Stuck in the Catchments.